Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into one of the strangest and most chaotic corners of modern American life. The fluorescent lit, vaguely sticky world of the Florida gas station supplement aisle. Not the glamorous side of Florida with beaches and palm trees. No, I mean the real Florida. The Florida where a gas station clerk is arguing with a guy in flip-flops at 3:14 a.m, where the coffee tastes like regret, and where somewhere near the beef jerky and motor oil sits a tiny bottle promising relaxation, euphoria, and possibly a deeply confusing trip to the emergency room. Tonight we're talking about the legendary little capsules known as ZaZa Red. Now before we begin, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And thank you for suggesting this topic, by the way. It's been such a fun one to explore. While you're down there in the comments, tell me where you're listening from and what time it is for you. Somehow these videos always find people at the exact moment they should probably be sleeping. Now dim the lights a little, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. Get comfortable, pull the blanket up, tuck your feet in so the imaginary raccoons of Florida can't nibble your toes. Let's get curious for a second. Have you ever wondered what it would actually feel like to wake up as a full-time ZaZa Red enthusiast in 2026 Florida? Could you survive an entire day fueled by gas station pills, questionable energy drinks, and the vague hope that your boss doesn't notice you blinking one eye at a time? What happens when your morning routine involves driving to a gas station that also sells bait, fireworks, and something called Rhino Power Platinum? Would you recognize the difference between a vitamin supplement and what the internet lovingly calls gas station heroin? How many capsules is too many capsules when the label says take responsibly, but the guy at the counter says people usually take like 6? Could you function through work, traffic, and family dinners while your brain slowly floats somewhere above a Circle K parking lot? And perhaps most importantly, how did a tiny bottle of capsules become one of the most infamous substances in the modern American convenience store ecosystem? Well, congratulations. You've just woken up in Florida. The year is 2026. It's 8:47 a.m. Your phone battery is at 12%. Your car smells faintly like a melted gas station hot dog, and you're already thinking about your first bottle of ZaZa Red. Good luck. Your day begins the way many modern Florida mornings do, with humidity, confusion, and a slight buzzing feeling in your skull that suggests yesterday's supplement experiment might not have been entirely FDA approved. The sun is already blazing through your blinds like a judgmental spotlight, and somewhere outside a neighbor is revving a truck that sounds like it runs exclusively on caffeine and bad decisions. You blink slowly, attempting to remember the exact sequence of events that led to this moment. Your brain, however, is moving through the morning like a dial-up internet connection from 1998. Every thought arrives with a faint loading bar. You check your phone. It's 8:47 a.m. which would be fine except you vaguely remember setting your alarm for 7. Apparently your brain decided that today's schedule was more of a loose suggestion than a binding contract. Your mouth tastes like someone brewed coffee using drywall dust and disappointment. Your limbs feel slightly heavier than usual, like gravity in your apartment has been increased by about 10% overnight. Welcome to the morning after a gas station supplement adventure. Now let's talk about the bed. The modern bed is one of humanity's greatest inventions. Memory foam, pillows, blankets, air conditioning humming softly in the background. Compared to most of human history, you're basically sleeping in a luxury palace. And yet somehow, despite all these comforts, you still feel like you woke up inside a washing machine. You sit up slowly, the room tilting just enough to remind you that chemistry is happening. Somewhere in your brain, neurons are still sorting through the aftermath of yesterday's capsules. The thing about substances that interact with the brain is that the brain notices. Not immediately, but eventually. You stretch your arms and listen to your joints pop like someone shaking a bag of microwave popcorn. Outside the window, the Florida morning is already fully operational. The humidity has entered the building, the sun is aggressive, and a lawnmower somewhere in the distance has started screaming at the grass. You shuffle toward the kitchen. It's time for water. Not coffee yet. Coffee would be reckless. Coffee on top of whatever your brain is still processing might launch you directly into the orbit of Jupiter. You pour a glass of water and stare thoughtfully at it for a moment, like a philosopher confronting the mysteries of the universe. Hydration is important, particularly when your previous evening involved a bottle of capsules purchased from a store that also sells lottery tickets and novelty lighters shaped like dolphins. You take a sip. Your brain appreciates this. Now let's check the body's internal status report. Head, slightly foggy. Stomach, cautiously optimistic. Energy level, somewhere between nap and mildly functional raccoon. This is the moment where your memory begins returning in fragments. The gas station, the bright fluorescent lights, the supplement rack filled with mysterious bottles promising relaxation, focus, energy, strength, calmness, and possibly the ability to bench press a tractor. And of course, the tiny red bottle. ZaZa Red. A product that lives in that strange legal ecosystem where something is technically sold as a dietary supplement, even though the internet discussions about it read like graduate-level pharmacology debates mixed with campfire horror stories. You remember holding the bottle in the store. You remember reading the label. You also remember ignoring the label. This, historically speaking, is where many interesting stories begin. You walk back to the bedroom and glance at the empty bottle sitting on your nightstand like a tiny plastic witness. It stares back at you silently. You stare back. No one speaks. The Florida sun continues blasting through the blinds like it has a personal vendetta. And slowly, gently, one thought begins forming in your mind. You might need more coffee, or possibly another trip to the gas station. But first, you need to survive the morning. Because in the strange modern ecosystem of the Florida convenience store supplement economy, every day begins the same way. With humidity, with confusion, and with the faint realization that the fluorescent lights of the gas station will probably see you again very soon. Let's talk about breakfast. Not eggs, not toast, not anything involving vegetables. Your breakfast begins with a drive to the nearest gas station convenience store, the modern temple of caffeine, nicotine, and mysterious capsules that promise relaxation while somehow also making your heart beat like a drum solo. You grab your keys, your phone, and whatever remains of your dignity, then step outside into the thick Florida air. The humidity greets you immediately, wrapping around your body like a warm, slightly damp blanket that someone forgot to wash in 2007. Your car sits in the driveway, already hot from the morning sun. The steering wheel has reached a temperature normally associated with frying eggs on sidewalks. You open the door. The interior smells faintly like old fast food, gasoline, and the lingering memory of questionable life decisions. A true Florida vehicle bouquet. You sit down, start the engine, and give yourself a moment to stare out the windshield while your brain boots up for the day. The engine hums softly. Somewhere nearby, a palm tree rustles in the breeze. A distant truck rumbles by like an angry refrigerator. This is the calm before the pilgrimage. You pull onto the road and begin the sacred journey toward the convenience store. Gas stations in the modern American landscape are remarkable places. They are part grocery store, part pharmacy, part late-night philosophy club, and part museum of things that absolutely should not exist but somehow do. Inside these buildings you can buy coffee, windshield wiper fluid, beef jerky, fishing bait, novelty sunglasses, and substances that promise to enhance your mood, focus, stamina, and possibly your ability to wrestle an alligator. Civilization is complicated. The road is quiet this morning. Florida drivers glide past with the calm determination of people who have accepted that traffic laws are more of a suggestion than a rule. You pass a strip mall, you pass a car wash, you pass a billboard advertising something called Rhino Power XL, which appears to be a supplement that promises results too powerful to explain using normal grammar. Finally, the gas station appears, bright red and glowing like a lighthouse for tired, confused humans who need caffeine immediately. You pull into the parking lot and park beside a pickup truck that looks like it has survived several small wars. For a moment, you sit there, you gather your thoughts, you prepare yourself, then you step inside. The automatic doors slide open with a soft mechanical sigh, releasing a blast of air conditioning that feels like divine intervention. Inside, the fluorescent lights buzz gently overhead. The coffee machines bubble. Somewhere near the counter, a hot dog rotates slowly on a heated roller, completing its quiet philosophical journey toward eternity. This place has everything. Coffee strong enough to wake the dead. Energy drinks in colours that do not appear anywhere in nature. And of course, the supplement rack. You know the one. It sits near the counter like a mysterious shrine to modern chemistry. Tiny bottles line the shelves with names that sound like either superhero characters or medieval potions. Ultra power, maximum charge, extreme focus, rhino strength. And somewhere in the middle of this rainbow of questionable promises sits the small red bottle you came for, ZaZa Red. You approach the rack slowly like an archaeologist discovering a relic from a lost civilization. For a moment you just stand there. Your brain considers the options. Coffee would be responsible. A breakfast sandwich might even be healthy-ish. But you didn't come here for responsible decisions. You reach for the bottle. It fits neatly in your hand, lightweight, harmless looking, like something that absolutely couldn't cause any complicated consequences later. You carry it to the counter alongside a large coffee that smells strong enough to restart your nervous system. The clerk barely looks up. He has seen everything. You pay. You step back outside into the warm Florida sunlight. And as you walk toward your car, the tiny bottle in your pocket quietly confirms what you already suspected. Breakfast is going to be interesting today. You enter the store and immediately locate the aisle. You know the one. It's the rack of neon-coloured bottles promising everything from laser focus to ancient Viking stamina. Somewhere among the testosterone boosters and herbal vitality formulas sits your object of devotion, the tiny red bottle labelled ZaZa Red. Let's pause here for a moment, because the gas station supplement rack is one of the most fascinating ecosystems in modern retail. At first glance, it looks innocent enough, just a spinning plastic display filled with small bottles and dramatic marketing promises. But the closer you look, the more it resembles a tiny museum dedicated to human optimism. Every bottle claims something bold: extreme energy, total relaxation, peak performance, maximum endurance. Somehow these tiny capsules promise to turn the average human into a focused philosopher, a gym champion, and a relaxed monk, all at the same time. Which, scientifically speaking, is a very ambitious resume for something sitting next to the Slim Jims. You stand there, studying the labels like a scholar examining ancient scrolls. One bottle features a cartoon rhinoceros flexing muscles that no rhinoceros has ever possessed. Another promises limitless stamina, which sounds impressive until you remember that most of human history was fueled by bread and naps. Then there are the mysterious herbal blends, names like Ancient Warrior Root Complex and Ultimate Herbal Drive. The packaging often includes lightning bolts, flames, or wolves howling at the moon, which from a medical perspective is not usually considered a recognised scientific measurement. But the true champion of this display is your bottle, ZaZa Red. Small, simple, almost suspiciously calm compared to the other bottles screaming about power and endurance. You pick it up and turn it slowly in your hand. The label is polite. It says things like dietary supplement and recommended serving. Very reasonable language. Very calm. Almost like a librarian quietly suggesting a book that might change your entire life. You glance around the store. The coffee machine gurgles nearby. A microwave hums as someone heats a breakfast burrito that has likely been frozen since the Clinton administration. The fluorescent lights overhead buzz with the soft electrical hum of modern civilization. No one is paying attention to you, except maybe the clerk behind the counter. He watches everything in the relaxed way of someone who has worked the morning shift long enough to witness humanity in all its forms. You can tell he's seen this moment before. Many times. Because the supplement aisle attracts a specific type of customer. The curious, the tired, the adventurous, the person who woke up feeling slightly foggy and thought, perhaps the solution to my morning lies in this tiny plastic bottle. You rotate the bottle again. There it is. The ingredient list. Now, ingredient lists on gas station supplements are fascinating reading material. They often look like a chemistry exam combined with a medieval herbal recipe. Some ingredients sound scientific, some sound botanical, and some sound like they were discovered by a wizard who lived behind a vitamin store in 1996. Your eyes scan the label slowly. Your brain attempts to interpret the information. This is the moment where a responsible person might pull out their phone and research the compound carefully. Possibly even consult medical journals or scientific papers. But this is not that moment. This is the moment where curiosity wins. You slip the bottle into your hand and carry it toward the counter. As you walk, you pass the other wonders of the gas station universe. Energy drinks glowing in colours not found anywhere in nature. Protein bars that promise the strength of a mountain climber. And a rack of sunglasses that could make anyone look like they're either solving crimes or avoiding them. The clerk nods as you approach. You place the bottle gently on the counter beside your coffee. For a brief moment, the tiny red bottle sits there under the fluorescent light like a mysterious artifact. A quiet little object with a surprisingly large reputation. You pay. The clerk hands you the bag. No speech, no warning. Just the silent understanding between two humans that something mildly questionable is about to occur. You step back outside into the bright Florida morning. The air is warm. Your car waits patiently. And inside your pocket, the legendary bottle from the supplement aisle of destiny quietly rattles, ready to begin the next chapter of your day. Behind the counter stands the gas station clerk, a man who has witnessed every possible human behaviour between midnight and dawn. He watches silently as you place your bottle of capsules next to a Monster energy drink and a breakfast sandwich that has been rotating under a heat lamp since the Obama administration. For a moment, the three items sit there together on the counter like a strange little breakfast trilogy. Energy drink, questionable sandwich, tiny bottle of modern chemistry. If archaeologists discovered this combination in 1,000 years, they would probably conclude that early 21st century humans had very complicated relationships with sleep. The clerk glances at the items, then at you. Not suspiciously, not judgmentally, just calmly, like a wildlife researcher observing a familiar species in its natural habitat. Gas station clerks possess a unique form of wisdom. After enough overnight shifts, they develop a deep understanding of human behaviour that philosophers spend entire careers trying to explain. They've seen everything. The 2 a.m. philosopher buying coffee and lottery tickets. The exhausted night shift nurse looking for something resembling food. The guy in flip-flops trying to microwave a burrito while explaining cryptocurrency to a confused stranger. Compared to all of that, your little bottle of capsules barely registers. The clerk reaches for the sandwich first. Now let's discuss the sandwich. It sits under a glowing heat lamp inside a plastic display case, rotating slowly like a museum artifact. The bread has reached a texture somewhere between toasted and philosophical. The cheese has achieved a state that scientists might describe as permanently melted. No one remembers when it was first placed there. The sandwich might remember. You pick it up anyway. Because at this point your brain has decided that food, even questionable food, is a strategic move. Fuel, preparation, possibly a defense against whatever your nervous system is about to experience. The clerk scans the sandwich with a soft beep, then the energy drink, then the bottle, beep. He pauses for half a second, reading the label briefly, not because he's curious, but because scanning tiny bottles is part of the job. His expression does not change. If anything, he looks slightly bored, which tells you something important. This purchase is not unusual. In fact, this purchase is probably part of a daily routine for half the customers who walk through these doors. Gas stations, you see, are fascinating crossroads of modern life. Everyone ends up here eventually. Truck drivers, construction workers, students running late for class, people who woke up feeling strange and thought, maybe the solution is inside that brightly coloured supplement rack. You slide your card into the reader. The machine beeps thoughtfully. The clerk waits. He doesn't rush you. There's a calm rhythm to the gas station checkout experience. The fluorescent lights hum overhead. The coffee machine burbles softly in the background, and somewhere near the soda fountain someone is arguing with a lid dispenser. The card reader approves your transaction. The clerk nods once. He hands you the receipt and the sandwich with the same quiet professionalism you might expect from someone handing over a museum artifact. Then he glances at the bottle again. Still no reaction. No speech. Just a small nod that seems to say, in the universal language of convenience store employees, "Good luck out there." You take your items and step away from the counter. Behind you, the next customer approaches with a bag of chips and 2 lottery tickets. The clerk scans them with the same calm efficiency. Another normal morning in the fluorescent-lit economy of modern America. You walk toward the automatic doors, the bottle gently rattling in your pocket. Outside, the Florida sun is already bright and unforgiving. The parking lot shimmers slightly in the heat, and somewhere in the distance a truck engine rumbles like an irritated thundercloud. You pause beside your car and look back through the glass doors. Inside, the clerk stands behind the counter, quietly observing the flow of humanity as it passes through the convenience store doors. He has seen everything, and somehow, despite everything, he still looks completely unsurprised, which, in a strange way, makes the whole situation feel oddly normal. Now comes the ritual. You sit in your car, stare at the bottle, and read the label. It says something like, "Take 1 capsule as directed." You consider this briefly before deciding that the internet probably knows better than the label. This, historically speaking, is a fascinating moment in human decision-making, because the label represents science, regulation, and polite corporate caution. The internet, meanwhile, represents thousands of strangers confidently typing advice at 3 a.m. And for reasons that psychologists may someday study in great detail, the strangers often win. You rotate the bottle slowly in your hand. The tiny capsules inside rattle gently, like they're whispering secrets about the next few hours of your life. Outside the windshield, the Florida parking lot glows under the sun. A man walks past carrying a bag of ice. Somewhere nearby, a car stereo is playing music loud enough to wake several species of bird. But inside the car, everything feels oddly quiet. This is the pause before the experiment. You open the bottle. The cap clicks softly, releasing that faint medicinal smell that all supplements seem to share. Not unpleasant exactly, just vaguely serious. You tip the bottle slightly and let 1 capsule roll into your palm. It's small, red, completely unimpressive. If someone handed it to you without context, you might assume it was a vitamin, something wholesome, something that probably belongs next to orange juice and motivational morning routines. Instead, you hold it between your fingers like a tiny philosophical question. Humans have always been curious creatures. Throughout history, people have experimented with plants, potions, teas, powders, and mysterious capsules in the hope of improving how they feel. Ancient civilizations had herbal tonics. Medieval apothecaries mixed strange ingredients in dusty jars. Modern convenience stores simply streamlined the process. Now the entire history of human chemical curiosity fits neatly into a plastic bottle beside the beef jerky. You glance back at the label, take one capsule as directed, a very calm sentence, a very polite suggestion. You think briefly about responsibility, then you think about the internet again. The internet, as you may recall, had some alternative recommendations. This is where the brain performs a fascinating calculation. Part logic, part curiosity, part the quiet optimism that says, it will probably be fine. You reach for the coffee sitting in your cup holder. The lid pops softly as you lift it. The coffee smells strong enough to restart your nervous system and possibly reanimate a small dinosaur. Gas station coffee has that effect. It doesn't whisper encouragement. It shouts motivation directly into your bloodstream. You place the capsule on your tongue, take a sip, and just like that, the ritual is complete. The capsule disappears into the mysterious machinery of the human body. Now comes the waiting. This is the strange part about substances that interact with the brain. They don't announce themselves immediately. There's no dramatic music, no flashing lights, just a quiet, subtle countdown happening somewhere inside your nervous system. You lean back in the driver's seat. The air conditioner hums softly. Outside, the world continues normally. Cars pull into the gas station. Someone pumps gasoline. The automatic doors slide open and closed with mechanical politeness. Everything looks the same, for now. Inside your body, however, a series of chemical messages have already begun travelling through the bloodstream toward the brain. Tiny molecular conversations are happening at microscopic speeds. Your neurons are about to receive a very interesting email. You take another sip of coffee and watch the parking lot. The sunlight glints off windshields. A pigeon walks confidently across the asphalt like it owns the place. Time passes slowly in these moments. 5 minutes, 10 minutes. You stretch your arms and roll your shoulders, waiting for the first subtle shift. That tiny internal change when the brain begins to say, something new is happening. Because that's the thing about experiments like this. At first, nothing seems different. The world looks the same. The parking lot is still a parking lot. The gas station is still a gas station. But somewhere deep inside your nervous system, the first domino has already tipped, and the day is only just getting started. Before we go further, let's pause and examine the science. ZaZa Red capsules contain Tianeptine, a substance originally developed decades ago as an antidepressant in parts of Europe. In much higher doses, however, it behaves very differently inside the brain, acting on opioid receptors and producing effects that range from mild euphoria to something far more complicated. Now, at this point in the story, it's helpful to imagine your brain as a very busy office building. Inside this office building are billions of tiny employees called neurons. Their entire job is to send messages to each other all day long. Messages about mood, motivation, stress, hunger, sleep, and whether that gas station breakfast sandwich was a bold culinary decision or a terrible mistake. Normally, these neurons communicate using chemical messengers called neurotransmitters. Think of them as emails flying between offices. Time to wake up. Time to feel relaxed. Time to panic because you forgot to answer that email from Tuesday. Your brain runs on these messages. Now along comes a substance like Tianeptine. Instead of writing its own messages, it quietly walks into the office building and starts adjusting how certain departments communicate. In smaller, medically prescribed amounts, when used as an antidepressant in some countries, It affects systems related to mood and stress regulation. Doctors in those places prescribe it carefully, in measured doses and under supervision, which is the key phrase there. Under supervision. Because the brain is not a simple machine. It's more like a symphony orchestra where every instrument needs to stay in balance. If one section suddenly starts playing too loudly, the entire performance can become complicated. And this is where the story of Tianeptine becomes unusual. In larger doses, the compound interacts with opioid receptors in the brain. These receptors are part of the system responsible for pain relief, reward, and feelings of calm or comfort. When those receptors activate, people may feel relaxation, warmth, or mild euphoria. The brain, being the curious and adaptable creature that it is, notices these signals immediately. Oh, it says, this is interesting. But the brain is also extremely good at adapting. If something repeatedly activates those reward pathways, the brain begins adjusting its internal settings. Over time, it may respond differently, requiring more stimulation to produce the same feeling. It's a little like turning up the volume on a radio. At first, the music sounds perfect. But eventually the brain asks, could we make this slightly louder? You, meanwhile, are sitting in your car with a coffee in one hand, listening to the gentle hum of the air conditioner. The parking lot looks peaceful. A delivery truck rolls slowly past the gas pumps. A seagull lands on the edge of a trash can and studies the situation with the focused determination of a professional scavenger. Everything appears perfectly ordinary. Inside your brain, however, those microscopic office workers are beginning to notice something new. Tiny chemical signals move across synapses. Receptors activate. Departments of the neurological office building start exchanging curious emails. Did anyone else feel that? Yes, something just arrived in the reward center. Interesting. Let's monitor the situation. This is the subtle part of the story. Because substances that affect the brain rarely arrive like fireworks. They show up quietly, slowly, like a guest walking into a crowded room and gently changing the mood of the conversation. You take another sip of coffee. The warmth spreads through your chest. Your shoulders relax slightly. Is that the capsule beginning to work, or is it just the coffee? Or maybe it's the simple calm of sitting in your car on a Florida morning while the world moves lazily around you. Sometimes the brain can't tell the difference, and honestly, neither can you. But somewhere deep in the neural orchestra of your mind, a new instrument has just started playing. Softly, almost politely. And the rest of the symphony is beginning to listen. After the capsules kick in, you sit in your car in the gas station parking lot contemplating life. This is a surprisingly common location for philosophical reflection in modern America. At first, nothing dramatic happens. No thunder, no flashing lights, no dramatic movie soundtrack announcing that your brain chemistry has entered a new chapter. Instead, it's subtle, a quiet shift. The mental equivalent of someone lowering the volume on the world by about 10%. Your shoulders loosen slightly. The coffee tastes better. The air conditioner hums with the comforting rhythm of a loyal household appliance that has absolutely no idea what kind of morning you're having. You lean back in the driver's seat and stare through the windshield at the wide, sunlit parking lot. Now here's something fascinating about parking lots. They are modern gathering places where strangers briefly share space while thinking about completely different things. Some people are rushing to work, some are buying coffee, some are just sitting quietly in their cars, contemplating the strange path their morning has taken. You are currently in the third category. A seagull struts confidently across the asphalt like it owns the entire gas station. It pauses beside a discarded chip bag and inspects it with the seriousness of a tiny bird detective solving a snack-related crime. You watch this unfold with deep interest. Was that bird always that confident? Had you ever noticed the confident posture of seagulls before? Probably not. But now it seems important. Your brain now operating in a slightly softer gear, begins wandering through the kind of thoughts that only appear when someone sits quietly in a parked car with nothing urgent demanding attention. You think about work. You think about the fact that you technically should be driving there soon. You also think about the curious modern phenomenon where adults begin their day by consuming coffee, supplements, vitamins and energy drinks that would absolutely terrify someone from the year 1890. Imagine explaining this morning to a medieval peasant, "Yes, good sir. I awoke in my temperature-controlled apartment, drove a machine powered by fossil fuel to a convenience store, purchased a chemical compound in capsule form, and am now sitting in a paved lot observing a bird." The peasant would probably assume you had lost your mind, and honestly, they might not be entirely wrong. A pickup truck pulls into the parking lot with a slow rumble. A man climbs out holding a large travel mug that could easily double as emergency camping equipment. He walks inside the store with the calm confidence of someone who has repeated this exact coffee mission thousands of times. The automatic doors slide open, then close. The rhythm of the gas station continues. Meanwhile, your brain begins drifting into what scientists might politely call relaxed observation mode. The Florida sun glints off car windows. A breeze moves the palm trees slightly. The world feels oddly peaceful for a place that also sells lottery tickets and novelty lighters shaped like dolphins. You stretch your arms and settle deeper into the seat. The capsule's effects remain subtle, but noticeable enough that the morning feels softer, less sharp around the edges, like someone replaced the usual stress of the day with a slightly padded version. Your thoughts wander again. You think about the gas station clerk inside, a man who has likely watched thousands of customers pass through these doors at every possible hour. He has seen early morning commuters, late-night philosophers, people celebrating lottery wins, people buying coffee after terrible days. Gas stations witness the entire spectrum of modern human life. And here you are. One more human sitting quietly in the parking lot, contemplating seagulls and brain chemistry while holding a cup of coffee. Eventually a small thought floats through your mind. You should probably go to work. But for just a few more minutes, the Florida parking lot philosophy hour continues. Because sometimes the strangest classrooms in life are not libraries or lecture halls. Sometimes they're sunlit parking lots where a tired human, a cup of coffee, and a slightly curious brain sit quietly together wondering how exactly the day ended up like this. Eventually you remember you have responsibilities, work, a job, possibly co-workers who expect you to function like a normal human being instead of a slightly tranquilized raccoon. This realization arrives slowly, like a polite reminder from the universe. You glance at the clock on the dashboard. Time has moved forward in that sneaky way time often does when you're sitting in a parking lot thinking about seagulls and the philosophy of convenience store supplements. You sigh, finish the last sip of your coffee, and place the empty cup into the cup holder like a ceremonial offering to the gods of caffeine. All right, time to drive. You start the car properly now, shift into gear and roll gently out of the gas station parking lot. The tyres hum softly against the pavement as you join the slow river of morning traffic flowing down the Florida road. Now here's the interesting thing about driving. Most people assume driving requires intense concentration at all times. In reality, much of it is a strange mixture of habit, muscle memory, and mild autopilot. Your brain has done this route hundreds of times before. Turn left at the light, past the car wash, drive past the strip mall with a nail salon, the vape shop, and the mysterious store that sells both mattresses and fireworks. The Florida landscape slides by outside the window. Palm trees sway lazily in the humid air. A billboard advertises something called Ultra Rhino Power Max, which appears to promise results that no responsible scientist would ever guarantee. You watch it pass by with calm curiosity. The morning traffic is light. A few pickup trucks rumble along the road, their drivers sipping coffee from containers large enough to hydrate a camel. A small sedan merges in front of you, its bumper decorated with at least 6 motivational stickers about beach life and positive energy. Your brain feels functional, not sharp like espresso, not sleepy like a Sunday afternoon nap, just slightly softened around the edges. The capsule seems to have settled into your system like a guest who arrived quietly and decided to rearrange the furniture of your mood just a little. Your shoulders remain relaxed. The usual morning anxiety, the mental checklist of emails, deadlines, and awkward office conversations feels less urgent than it normally does, which, under normal circumstances, might actually be pleasant. Except there's one small complication. You still have to go to work. And work generally expects a certain level of alertness. You glance in the rearview mirror and practice a neutral facial expression. Normal person face. Responsible employee face. The kind of face that says, yes, I slept well, drank my coffee, and am fully prepared to participate in professional activities today. You nod slightly. That seems convincing enough. The car continues down the road, passing another gas station, then another convenience store, then a fast food restaurant already busy with the morning breakfast crowd. Florida mornings are surprisingly energetic places. Construction workers grab coffee before long shifts. Office workers rush through drive-thrus. Students shuffle towards school buses with the quiet determination of people who would rather still be asleep. Meanwhile, you glide along in your vehicle, feeling like a slightly calmer version of yourself, not dramatically different, just mellow, like someone lowered the intensity slider on your emotions by a few points. A red light appears ahead. You stop. The engine idles gently. To your left, another driver drums their fingers on the steering wheel to music you can't hear. To your right, someone is enthusiastically singing along to a radio station with the windows down. The light changes, traffic moves again, and slowly, mile by mile, the reality of the workday approaches. Buildings grow taller. Parking lots become busier. The familiar landmarks of your daily routine appear on the horizon. Your office is getting closer. Your co-workers are already there, possibly drinking coffee, possibly answering emails, definitely expecting you to behave like a fully operational adult human being. You pull into the parking lot and park the car. For a moment you sit there quietly, hands on the steering wheel, brain calmly humming along. The commute is complete. Now comes the next challenge, pretending that everything about this morning has been completely normal. At work you attempt to behave normally. This proves difficult because ZaZa Red doesn't exactly produce the crisp productivity of a morning coffee. Coffee is predictable. Coffee walks into your brain, claps its hands loudly and shouts, "All right everyone, let's get moving." Your neurons scramble into action. Emails get answered. Spreadsheets get opened. The day begins with the aggressive enthusiasm of a caffeinated squirrel. What you're experiencing, however, is something a little softer, less squirrel, more sleepy house cat observing the world from a windowsill. You step into the office building with what you hope is a convincing level of professionalism. The fluorescent lights buzz quietly overhead, and the familiar smell of carpet cleaner and burnt coffee floats through the hallway. Offices all over the world smell exactly like this. It's a very specific scent, part productivity, part despair, part microwaved leftovers. You walk toward your desk while co-workers move around you in their usual morning routines. Someone is already typing aggressively at their keyboard, like they're trying to defeat the spreadsheet in combat. Another co-worker walks past carrying a coffee mug the size of a soup bowl. Everyone looks busy, focused, alert. Meanwhile, your brain feels like it has gently reclined into a comfortable chair. You sit down at your desk, computer on, monitor glowing. The email inbox opens. and suddenly you're confronted with one of the most powerful forces in modern life: unread messages. There are 12 of them. 12 tiny digital reminders that other humans expect things from you today. You stare at the screen. Your brain reads the first subject line, then reads it again, then reads it a third time with the calm curiosity of someone examining a slightly confusing museum exhibit. Eventually you click the email. The words make sense, mostly. But the usual urgency that accompanies work emails seems to be missing. Instead of reacting immediately, your mind drifts slightly. You notice the soft hum of the air conditioning. You notice the gentle clicking of keyboards around the office. You notice that the plant on your desk might actually be leaning slightly to the left, and you begin wondering whether plants have preferred directions for leaning. This is not the type of thought that usually happens during productivity hours. A coworker appears beside your desk. Morning, they say. You look up. This is an important moment. This is the social test. Morning, you reply. Your voice sounds normal, calm, possibly even friendly. Excellent. The coworker continues talking about something related to a project deadline. You listen carefully, nodding at appropriate moments, while your brain attempts to process the information with the gentle enthusiasm of someone assembling a puzzle underwater. You understand most of what they're saying, probably. Your brain files the information into a mental folder labelled important work, things that should definitely be addressed. Later, the coworker leaves. You look back at your screen. The email is still open. The cursor blinks patiently in the reply box. Blink, blink, blink. Computers are remarkably patient machines. You begin typing a response, slowly, very carefully. Each sentence feels like it requires a small committee meeting inside your brain before being approved. Meanwhile, the office continues its busy rhythm around you. Phones ring, chairs roll across the floor. Someone laughs at a joke near the break room. Everything feels slightly distant, like you're observing the workplace through a very comfortable fog. Not unpleasant, just relaxed. Perhaps a little too relaxed for professional productivity. You finish typing the email. You read it once, then again. It appears coherent, probably. You press send, success. One task completed. You lean back in your chair and take a deep breath. The workday stretches ahead of you like a long road filled with meetings, deadlines, and additional emails that will continue arriving whether you're ready or not. But for now, you have achieved something important. You have successfully appeared normal, at least for the first few minutes, and in the strange chemistry experiment that has become your Tuesday morning, that counts as a victory. Around midday, something strange happens. The pleasant fog lifts slightly, replaced by a creeping feeling that your brain would really like another bottle. Not dramatically, not like a siren going off in your head, or like a quiet suggestion that floats gently across your thoughts while you stare at your computer screen. The first sign is subtle. Your shoulders tighten a little. The comfortable softness that wrapped around the morning begins to fade, like the last few minutes of a pleasant dream you can't quite remember. Your brain, which earlier was lounging peacefully in a metaphorical hammock, now sits up slightly and checks the room. Something has changed. You notice it while reading an email for the third time. Earlier, your thoughts drifted lazily from sentence to sentence. Now they feel sharper, slightly restless. Not fully uncomfortable, just different. Like the air pressure changed inside your skull. You lean back in your chair and stretch your arms above your head. The office continues its steady rhythm around you. Phones ring. Someone laughs near the printer. A coworker microwaves something in the break room that smells suspiciously like leftover fish. Normal workplace chaos. But inside your brain, a quiet conversation has started. You remember the bottle. Specifically, you remember that there are more capsules inside it. This thought appears with remarkable clarity. The human brain is very good at remembering things that felt good earlier. Evolutionarily speaking, this was useful. If our ancestors found a good food source or a safe resting place, remembering that location helped them survive. Your brain is now applying the same logic. Earlier, it says politely, we experienced a pleasant chemical situation. Perhaps it continues, we should repeat that situation. You stare at your computer screen. The spreadsheet in front of you suddenly looks more complicated than it did this morning. Numbers blur together slightly and the task of concentrating feels like pushing a shopping cart through deep sand. Your energy level dips, not dramatically, just enough that you notice it. You glance at the clock. 12:16 p.m. Lunchtime is approaching. Now lunch, in theory, should solve many problems. Food provides energy. A short walk might refresh your mind. Perhaps a coffee could restore the sharp focus that the morning never quite delivered. But your brain is not thinking about sandwiches. Your brain is thinking about the gas station, specifically the little rack of bottles near the counter, specifically the tiny red one. You tap your fingers lightly on the desk. This is the moment where human decision-making becomes interesting. Because there are two voices involved. Voice number one is responsible. It says things like, you already took one today. You have work to finish. Maybe drink some water. Voice number two is curious. It says things like, well, technically the bottle contains several capsules. And the internet did mention that people sometimes take more. Also remember how relaxed the parking lot philosophy hour felt. The brain, unfortunately, is not a democracy. Sometimes curiosity wins the argument simply because it sounds more interesting. You stand up from your desk and stretch again. Your legs feel slightly restless now, like they would appreciate movement. Maybe a walk, maybe fresh air, or maybe a quick drive. You walk toward the break room and pour yourself a glass of water. The cold water helps slightly, clearing the fog just enough that you can think more clearly. But the idea is still there. The gas station is only a few minutes away. A short trip, a quick stop. Technically, you could be back before anyone notices you left. You take a sip of water and stare thoughtfully out the break room window. Outside, the Florida sun shines brightly over the parking lot. Palm trees sway lazily in the warm air, completely unconcerned with the complicated chemical negotiations happening inside your brain. For a moment you stand there quietly. Responsible voice, curious voice, both waiting for your decision. Because the midday crash has arrived, and somewhere across town, under buzzing fluorescent lights, a tiny red bottle is waiting patiently on the convenience store shelf, just in case you decide to visit again, and so begins the second pilgrimage of the day. Once again you pull into the same gas station parking lot, greeted by the familiar fluorescent glow of convenience store capitalism. It feels strangely ceremonial now. The parking lot, which looked chaotic and sun-drenched this morning, now feels like familiar territory, a kind of modern oasis for the tired, the curious, and the chemically adventurous. You park in the same general area as before, not because you have to, but because rituals often form themselves without permission. You turn off the engine and sit there for a moment, hands resting on the steering wheel. The air conditioner winds down with a soft sigh, as if the car itself is concerned about the choices you're making today. You look at the gas station. It looks back at you. The automatic doors shimmer slightly in the heat, opening and closing for customers with all the enthusiasm of a bored robot. You take a deep breath, open the door, and step out into the Florida heat. The kind of heat that feels less like weather and more like a personality. The parking lot pavement radiates upward like a toaster set to medium-high. A gust of humid wind brushes your face, carrying the delicate scent of gasoline, fryer oil, and promotional donut glaze. Civilization at its finest. You walk toward the entrance, passing a display of firewood stacked neatly beside bags of ice. Because Florida weather demands preparedness for both barbecue season and hurricane season simultaneously. Inside, the gas station is cool and bright. The fluorescent lights buzz overhead like a choir of mechanical insects. A slushy machine hums rhythmically. The coffee machine gurgles with the determination of someone barely holding it together. Nothing has changed. And yet everything feels slightly different. This time, you're not here for breakfast. You're here because your brain tapped you on the shoulder and whispered, "Remember how nice that felt earlier?" You head straight for the supplement aisle, weaving past displays of energy drinks, Bluetooth speakers shaped like footballs, discounted sunglasses and snacks that appear to have transcended traditional definitions of food. The supplement rack sits where it always sits, between the lighters and the counter, glowing faintly with the magic of modern capitalism. Bottles in neon colours promise everything from vitality to invincibility. But your eyes go straight to the familiar red bottle, ZaZa Red. Your mind does something fascinating in moments like this. It downplays risk. It amplifies memory. It says things like, "You're fine," and "What's the worst that could happen?" And a second capsule might improve your mood, your productivity, and possibly your ability to tolerate co-workers. The responsible part of your brain tries to interrupt. "We could get a snack instead," it suggests, but the rest of your brain is already reaching for the bottle. You pick it up, holding it once again in your hand. It feels lighter than you remember, or maybe you're imagining that. You rotate it slowly, pretending to read the label again like this is an informed medical decision and not a Florida emotional impulse. The clerk glances up from the counter. Same calm expression. Same weary wisdom. He has absolutely seen this scenario before. You approach the counter and place the bottle gently beside a bottle of water and a pack of gum. The universal purchase combination of someone who is both slightly dehydrated and trying extremely hard to appear normal. Beep, beep, the items scan. "You back already?" the clerk asks in a tone that is neither judgmental nor surprised, just observational. You smile awkwardly. "Long day." He nods, as if that explains everything, and in a way it does. You pay and walk back outside into the heat, the automatic doors swooshing dramatically behind you like you've just left an important meeting. Back in the parking lot, you pause beside your car. The sun is high, the sky is bright, and the little red bottle in your hand rattles softly in the breeze, like a tiny maraca encouraging you toward questionable decision-making. You open the car door, slide in, and shut the world out. It's quiet, it's cool, it's familiar. And now comes the moment of truth. The moment where curiosity meets impulse, and impulse usually wins. Because this is the second gas station run of the day, and as your fingers twist the cap open, the Florida wind brushes against the car gently, like the universe whispering, "You're really doing this again, huh?" The reason these capsules exist at all lies in a fascinating legal loophole. In the United States, many compounds that aren't explicitly scheduled drugs can still be sold as dietary supplements, provided the packaging avoids certain claims. And nowhere does this loophole thrive quite like Florida, the land where wildlife regulations, traffic laws, and pharmaceutical boundaries all operate on something best described as a flexible honor system. To understand how ZaZa Red ends up on a gas station shelf between beef jerky and windshield washer fluid, you first need to understand the glorious chaos that is American supplement regulation. Unlike medications which require testing, clinical trials, years of research, and approval from people in white lab coats, supplements live in a very different neighborhood of legality. Imagine the FDA as a strict librarian. Medications sit inside the library, catalogued, organized, supervised. Supplements sit outside on the front lawn selling lemonade, saying things like, I'm not technically claiming to cure anything, but I might change your entire mood. This is the loophole. If a product avoids certain phrases, words like treat, cure, fix, resolve, or prevent, then it exists in a quiet regulatory shadow. Instead of medical claims, supplement companies use words like support, enhance, and promote, which are functionally meaningless but legally delightful. And so, ZaZa Red becomes a mood support formula, not a drug, just a vibe. But the chemical inside it behaves a bit more seriously than the packaging suggests, which is where things get complicated. Different states have noticed this. Different states have reacted. Some said, we should probably regulate that. Others said, we'll get around to it after lunch. Florida said, put it next to the gum. You sit in your parked car with a new bottle of capsules on your lap, thinking about how bizarre it is that your morning has become intertwined with federal labelling laws. If someone from another country asked you to explain the system, you would probably need to start with a flow chart, a very long flow chart. Because American supplement regulation includes rules like, you cannot sell a product that makes medical claims. You can sell a product that contains a powerful psychoactive compound. You can sell it in gas stations. You can sell it next to candy, but you must not say it treats anything, because that would be misleading. You look down at the bottle again, the label says something like supports mood and wellness, which is technically true in the same way that saying the ocean is moist is technically true. It conveys the general idea without getting anyone in legal trouble. Meanwhile, the chemical inside the capsule is doing something far more complex, binding to receptors, altering neurotransmission, and inspiring chat forums filled with people carefully comparing dosages like medieval monks discussing alchemy. The more you think about it, the stranger it becomes. Someone, somewhere in a warehouse, filled thousands of these bottles with a substance that acts like an opioid at high enough doses, and then shipped those bottles to a distribution centre, which then shipped them to dozens of gas stations, all because the packaging contained the magical phrase, dietary supplement. Your brain drifts deeper into the absurdity. You think about the entire supply chain, from the factory, to the freight truck, to the convenience store, to your hands. The clerk didn't blink. The customers didn't blink. The law, for the most part, barely blinked. The loophole keeps the whole system running. A loophole large enough to drive a delivery truck through. A car pulls into the parking lot beside you. The driver steps out, yawning, and walks into the gas station with the familiar look of someone who has also relied on this loophole before. The automatic doors hiss open, welcoming one more tired American into the strange marketplace of unregulated chemical optimism. You take a deep breath and lean back in your seat. This is the reality of Florida's legal grey zone. A place where sunscreen is mandatory, fireworks are seasonal, and psychoactive compounds can be purchased before 9 a.m. with a breakfast sandwich. And somehow it all makes a strange kind of sense. At some point you inevitably begin researching ZaZa Red online. This is where things get truly educational. You don't start with anything dramatic, just a curious search, a little midnight Googling, maybe a question typed into your phone while lying on your couch, still feeling the echoes of the day's experimentation whispering through your nervous system. You type ZaZa Red, what is it? And immediately discover what every modern human eventually learns. If you give the internet an inch, it will give you a 47-mile avalanche of conflicting opinions, dramatic stories, and enough anecdotal pharmacology to qualify as an honorary medical degree from Reddit University. The first search results look official enough. A few vaguely authoritative websites describing the product as a mood support supplement, which sounds harmless, possibly even wholesome, like chamomile tea with a gym membership. But scroll a little further and suddenly you're in a digital jungle. Forums, threads, screenshots, anonymous profiles whose usernames are some combination of numbers, Greek mythology references, and animals wearing sunglasses. You click into the first thread. Within seconds, you realize you have stepped into a realm governed by two types of people. 1. The pharmaco-nerds, people who somehow know the chemical structure of tianeptine, can recite receptor binding affinities from memory and write paragraphs that begin with technically 2. The survivors, people who start every sentence with dude, listen, and then proceed to share cautionary tales that sound like a cross between a chemical romance and a horror movie narrated by your cousin who swears he once saw Bigfoot. You read one post. It's fine if you take it responsibly. You read another. I took 3 and cleaned my entire house at 2 a.m. Another. Do not take more than directed unless you want to meet your ancestors early. And then, the withdrawal. Brother, the withdrawal. You sit back and stare at your phone. This is the modern problem with curiosity. One moment you're simply trying to understand the chemical in your gas station capsule. The next you're deep in an online conversation discussing neurological pathways with someone whose profile picture is a raccoon holding a glow stick. You scroll further. A user with a dragon avatar writes a 14-paragraph essay explaining the difference between tianeptine sulfate and tianeptine sodium, using diagrams and metaphors involving roller coasters. Another user insists the product changed their life. Another insists it almost ruined theirs. Another insists it's all overblown. Another insists it's not overblown enough. It is, without exaggeration, a beautiful storm of human experience. And this is where the internet becomes more philosophical than scientific. Because no matter the topic, supplements, diets, exercise, sleep, cryptocurrency, humanity has a universal pattern. Everyone online is either an expert, a survivor, a storyteller, or someone who posts only once and disappears forever into the digital mist. You close the first thread and open another. This one is even more chaotic. People arguing, people agreeing, people sharing charts, people sharing memes. Someone somehow brought astrology into the discussion. Another person claims the capsules unlock a 4th mode of consciousness, which sounds impressive but also suspiciously unregulated. You glance at your half-empty bottle on the table. Your brain feels slightly warm with the weight of new information. You scroll again. More stories, more warnings, more theories. Someone posts, if caffeine and opioids had a weird child who grew up in a gas station, this would be it. Someone replies, that child needs therapy. Someone else posts, just drink water and touch grass. The advice is varied. The emotions are dramatic. The internet, as always, is undefeated. Eventually, after far too much scrolling, you set the phone down. Your mind is buzzing with words like receptor downregulation, tolerance build-up, anecdotal experience, and bro, trust me. You stare at the ceiling, you breathe, and you come to a profound realization. You're now more confused than when you started. But that's the internet for you. A place where information and chaos coexist in perfect harmony, held together by questionable confidence and passion alone. You pick your phone back up, scroll one more time out of sheer instinct and read a final post. Honestly, everyone's different. Just be careful. A rare moment of wisdom in a sea of digital noise. You put the phone down again. The room feels quiet. Your thoughts settle. And you realize something deeply true. Sometimes the rabbit hole doesn't offer answers. Sometimes it simply reminds you how incredibly human we all are. Curious, anxious, hopeful, confused, and trying our very best to understand the strange little capsules we find along the way. Online forums are full of amateur chemists, self-experimenters, and people who speak about supplements with the tone of medieval alchemists discussing potions. And nowhere is this more apparent than Reddit, the digital tavern where modern humans gather to share knowledge, compare brain chemistry experiments, and warn each other about mistakes made at 3 a.m. under the influence of curiosity and questionable self-confidence. You scroll through one of these threads like an explorer entering uncharted territory. Immediately, a user named NeuroWizard_420 begins explaining the molecular pathways of Tianeptine with the enthusiasm of someone who has definitely tried this more times than they are willing to admit. He speaks in paragraphs, long paragraphs that would make actual pharmacists say, "Hey, slow down. Who taught you all this?" He writes things like, "Technically, at the mu opioid receptor, Tianeptine acts as a full agonist, but only at higher doses. At normal doses, it's basically an atypical antidepressant, but at supratherapeutic levels. At this point, you stop reading to Google what supratherapeutic means. When you return, the thread has already moved on to a heated debate between people who believe they have discovered the optimal dosage window based on personal experimentation, spreadsheets, and vibes." Next, a user named Synapse Sam posts a graph, a real graph, showing the subjective effects of Tianeptine plotted against time. He claims he built the graph after carefully monitoring his experience over the last month. You admire the dedication. Then you worry slightly. Then you admire the dedication again. Further down the thread, someone named Goblin Doctor enters the conversation to issue a stern warning, using the exact tone a medieval healer might take when advising villagers not to anger the forest spirits. He writes, "Listen, respect the compound. People who don't respect the compound end up in Valhalla way too early." You're not entirely sure whether he means that metaphorically or literally. Either way, you keep reading. There are dosage charts. There are half-life explanations. Someone posts a 500-word essay comparing the subjective experience of Tianeptine to drinking hot chocolate inside your soul while simultaneously becoming one with the couch. Another person immediately disagrees, arguing that it feels more like a warm mental blanket paired with the emotional stability of a golden retriever. You begin to realize something important. None of these people agree with each other. Not one. But all of them speak with the confidence of experts. This is the true heart of the Reddit pharmacology department. No degrees, no lab coats, just passion, anecdotal data, and a willingness to self-experiment in ways that would make your high school biology teacher faint. You scroll deeper. Someone posts a cautionary tale involving an unplanned trip to the ER, a very confused nurse, and an explanation that began with the phrase, "Well, there was this gas station," someone else responds with, "Bro, same." Then comes the greatest post of all, a detailed harm reduction guide written by someone who clearly missed their calling as a public health official. It includes hydration schedules, warnings about tolerance strategies for tapering, a reminder to never doze because you're bored, and an inspirational closing message that simply says, "Stay safe, kings." It is unexpectedly wholesome. You scroll further and discover a side debate about whether ZaZa Red should be classified as a research chemical, a supplement, or the final boss of gas station pharmacology. The thread never reaches consensus, because Reddit never reaches consensus. Instead, it forms a beautiful, chaotic cloud of opinions, insights, warnings, metaphors, science, pseudoscience, and memes, all orbiting around the same quiet truth. Humans are endlessly curious about the things they put into their bodies, and endlessly confident that they understand more than they probably do. You set your phone down, brain buzzing with more information than you ever expected to learn about a gas station capsule. You stare at the ceiling for a moment and consider your new expertise. Congratulations. You've officially received your honorary degree from the Reddit pharmacology department. No diploma, no ceremony, just the quiet knowledge that somewhere out there, dozens of strangers have strong opinions about the tiny bottle currently sitting on your nightstand. Back at work, the second dose provides a brief window of productivity. You feel calm, slightly warm, and mildly convinced you could solve several of life's problems if people would simply stop asking you emails. It's that rare, glittering moment where your brain and your body seem to shake hands and agree to cooperate. Suddenly, tasks that felt overwhelming earlier now seem approachable, maybe even doable. You open your laptop with the quiet confidence of someone who believes they're about to enter their hyper-focused problem-solving era. For the first few minutes, everything truly does feel magical. Your typing speed increases, your thoughts glide instead of stumble. Your posture even improves by half an inch. You're not quite a productivity machine, more like a mellow wizard who's finally remembered a useful spell. You open a spreadsheet. You actually look at the spreadsheet. You even understand the spreadsheet. You begin entering numbers with a level of concentration usually reserved for watchmakers, bomb defusal teams, and people trying to reheat leftovers without making them explode. For a moment, you feel unstoppable. This must be what peak performance feels like. But then, slowly, quietly, the illusion begins to stretch thin. The first crack appears when you receive an email notification, just a tiny ding. But inside your head, it sounds like church bells announcing the arrival of a tax auditor. You stare at the notification for several seconds, hoping it will disappear if you simply show no reaction. When it doesn't, you click it open with the dramatic resignation of someone reluctantly checking the results of a medical test. The email is simple, short, friendly, asking for a file, very normal, very manageable, and yet your brain responds with, that seems like a problem for future you. You close it. Back to the spreadsheet. Back to the productivity illusion. For a few more minutes you float in that calm bubble of focus. The numbers line up beautifully. The columns behave. Your brain feels smooth and orderly, like a freshly tidied room. Then your thoughts begin drifting. Just a little. You start wondering whether you left your coffee mug in the break room. You wonder whether your car is still parked straight, or at the slightly crooked angle you always promise yourself you'll fix later. You wonder why your plant at home leans toward the window with the dramatic enthusiasm of a Broadway performer. You blink and try to refocus. It works. Briefly. But then the warmth settles deeper into your shoulders and your brain drifts again, this time toward more philosophical territory. Things like, why are emails always phrased so neutrally? Does anyone actually know how pivot tables work? Or do we all just lie about it? What if the office microwave has never been cleaned? Why do fluorescent lights always feel like they're judging you? You reset your focus again. You straighten your chair. You tell yourself, okay, for real this time. And to your credit, it works. You complete another task. You send a file. You rename a document something responsible, like Q4 updated Final 2 actual final. But slowly, softly, reality creeps back in. Reality. Your calm focus becomes a little too calm. Your clarity becomes a little too soft around the edges. You begin staring at the wall for slightly longer than is considered normal in a professional setting. Your brain feels like a warm, sleepy marshmallow. A co-worker walks by your desk and says something friendly like, "How's it going?" And you respond 2 seconds too late with a cheerful, "Yes." They blink. You blink. You both pretend nothing happened. You return to the computer. The productivity illusion has begun to dissolve. Your brief reign as office wizard is coming to an end, replaced by the slow, gentle realization that your brain is drifting into the kind of mellow where thinking feels optional. You try to send one more email. You type the first sentence, then the second. Then you reread the sentence and realize it's approximately 40% English, 40% enthusiasm, and 20% pure guesswork. You delete it. Better try again later. The afternoon sunlight glows through the office windows. Your energy sinks just slightly. And in the quiet hum of the workplace, one truth becomes very clear. The productivity illusion was lovely while it lasted. But illusions, by definition, never stay forever, especially when they come in tiny red capsules purchased from a gas station next to the beef jerky. But there is a biological catch. The brain adapts quickly to substances that affect opioid receptors. At first, this seems like nothing more than a mildly interesting scientific fact, the kind of thing you might read on a health blog while pretending to be productive at work. But over time, the reality of that sentence becomes much more personal. Because your brain, clever as it is, has one major design flaw. It gets used to things quickly. The same chemical shift that felt warm, comforting, and pleasantly foggy during your morning parking lot meditation now feels quieter, less pronounced. Like someone turned the dimmer switch down a notch. Your brain notices immediately. It leans forward like a tiny internal manager and says, that didn't hit quite the same way. Interesting. This is the slow creep of tolerance, and it is one of nature's most persistent invitations to questionable decision-making. It begins subtly, a slight decrease in the effect, a faint feeling of, maybe I should try one more. Just a whisper at first. Then the whisper becomes a suggestion. Then the suggestion becomes a nudge. And you, being human, do what humans have done for thousands of years. You rationalize. It's not like I'm taking that much. It's just to get me through the afternoon. People online take way more than this. Technically, this bottle is labelled as a supplement. Your brain nods approvingly at each justification. Because tolerance is sneaky, not a dramatic cliff, but a gentle slope. So gentle you barely notice you're walking down it until you're already halfway to the gas station again. The science behind it is simple. Opioid receptors don't like being overstimulated. When they detect too much activity, they start adjusting themselves. They become a little less sensitive, a little more sluggish, as if saying, we don't have time to react to every little signal, calm down. This means the next time you take the same amount, the receptors respond with less enthusiasm. The warm sensation is still there, just diluted. Your brain, unsatisfied, begins turning over the possibilities. Maybe one more capsule would restore the magic. Maybe today's batch is weaker. Maybe my body absorbed it differently. You're now actively negotiating with yourself. This is very normal. Humanity has built entire industries around exactly this negotiation. Caffeine, sugar, nicotine, energy drinks that claim to contain natural wolf energy, and now Tianeptine. You slouch slightly in your office chair as this internal debate continues. Around you, co-workers type, talk, sip coffee, and read emails without knowing that one cubicle over, a quiet neurochemical negotiation is taking place. Your thoughts cycle again, maybe after work, maybe during lunch, maybe a half dose. Even your metaphors start changing. Earlier, ZaZa Red was a novelty, something odd, curious, interesting. Now it feels more like a lever, something you can pull to adjust your internal settings, a tool, a cheat code, a shortcut. Your brain loves shortcuts. Evolution taught it to conserve effort whenever possible. Why struggle through a stressful workday if a tiny red capsule can make the edges feel softer? But tolerance doesn't negotiate in your favour. Every adjustment your receptors make pushes you one step further from the original effect. And your brain, eager to restore that feeling, begins quietly considering escalating strategies. Nothing dramatic yet, just thoughts, just ideas, just curiosity. You stand up from your desk and stretch. Your muscles feel slightly heavier. Your mood is more fragile than earlier. The warm glow from the second dose has settled into something more muted, and your brain, endlessly ambitious, endlessly adaptive, whispers its final suggestion. We could try just a little more. You exhale slowly. This is the slow creep, not a storm, not a crash, just a quiet drift, gentle, patient, and extremely persuasive. And it is in this moment, standing under the soft hum of fluorescent office lights, that you realize something profound. Tolerance isn't just a chemical process, it's a conversation. A negotiation between you and your brain, one that becomes more complicated with every capsule. And though the day continues normally around you, you now carry a tiny awareness that wasn't there before. The bottle's gravity has increased, and it will be waiting for you, steadily, silently, the moment your workday ends. By evening, the gas station parking lot transforms into a social ecosystem of its own. The sun has begun its slow descent, casting a warm orange glow across the asphalt. The heat of the day still lingers, rising in shimmering waves from the pavement, like a final exhale from the Florida summer. Palm trees sway lazily overhead, and the electric hum of the streetlights flickers to life, signalling that the day is slipping into a new phase, and so is the gas station. Morning gas stations belong to commuters. Lunchtime gas stations belong to construction crews and office workers grabbing snacks. But evening gas stations belong to everyone. A man in flip-flops stands by his car pumping gas, humming loudly to a country song blasting from his open door. Beside him, a teenager wearing a neon vest from his part-time job buys an energy drink that appears to contain more caffeine than water. A couple argues softly near the windshield cleaning station. A group of friends laughs too loudly while sitting on the tailgate of a pickup truck, and you, of course, pull into the lot with a sense of familiarity that borders on ritual. This is your third visit today, but don't worry, nobody here is counting. Evening gas station culture is surprisingly vibrant. Everyone who ends up here after sunset has a story, and none of them match. A man wearing a tank top and sunglasses, despite it almost being dark, walks into the store with the confidence of someone who has absolutely never questioned any of his decisions. A delivery driver sits in his van, taking a break and eating a sandwich wrapped in enough foil to survive a minor explosion. A skateboarder rolls past the pumps, weaving gracefully around a parked SUV like it's part of an obstacle course only he can see. You take a quiet moment to observe all this, leaning against your car door before heading inside. It is, in its own strange way, beautiful. Humanity at its most unfiltered. The transitional space between day and night. A crossroads of errands, impulse purchases, and existential dread. You step inside the store and are greeted by the familiar sensory orchestra. Buzzing lights, humming refrigerators, jingling door chimes, and the distant whir of a slushy machine struggling valiantly to keep up with demand. The air conditioning is set to Arctic expedition, providing immediate relief from the humid evening air. Inside, the crowd is even more eclectic. A man wearing painter's pants stands in front of the bottled water fridge, staring at the options as if every brand carries a different prophecy about his future. A woman in business attire scrolls through her phone while waiting in line, holding a microwave burrito with the exhausted posture of someone who has accepted their fate. A teenager browses the candy aisle with intense focus, clearly strategizing the optimal sugar-to-dollar ratio. You drift toward the supplement rack. The clerk looks up, recognizes you instantly, and gives you a small nod that lies somewhere between hello again and you are clearly on a journey. But he does not judge. Evening clerks have seen too much to judge anything. You pick up another bottle, or perhaps just examine the one you already have, pretending for a moment that you're browsing thoughtfully when in reality, the decision was made long before you pulled into the parking lot. Around you, the convenience store buzzes with small moments of life. Someone laughs at a joke. Someone curses quietly at a lottery ticket that did not deliver on its promise of instant riches. Someone else walks in barefoot, which is always slightly alarming, but very on brand for Florida after sunset. You take your place in line. The line moves slowly, giving you time to think, not deeply. but just enough to recognize how surreal this all is. Your day began with confusion, then curiosity, then productivity, then that slow creeping need for more. And now, as twilight settles over the parking lot and you shuffle forward with a bottle in your hand, you realize you've become part of the evening gas station ecosystem. A regular, an observer, a participant in a strange nightly ritual shared by people who likely didn't expect their lives to lead them here either. The clerk reaches for your items, the scanner beeps, the evening crowd flows around you like a warm, chaotic river. And as you step back into the dimming Florida night, the streetlights flicker overhead, illuminating a scene that feels oddly poetic. A gas station parking lot, a handful of strangers, and the quiet, unspoken truth that everyone here is trying, in their own way, to get through another day. In many communities, these supplements quietly circulate through informal networks. Not official networks, not regulated channels, not anything involving lab coats, clipboards, or people saying words like dosage guidelines. No, this is something far more human and far more chaotic, a kind of whispered economy built on convenience store chemistry and the collective desire to feel slightly better than one felt yesterday. It starts innocently. Someone buys a bottle out of curiosity. Someone else hears about it from a coworker. Someone sees a thread online. And slowly, quietly, the information spreads. Not in medical journals, but in parking lots, work break rooms, vape shop lounges, group chats, and the sacred cultural hub of all small towns, the back area of a smoke shop that sells both incense and questionable swords. You begin to notice these patterns once you're part of the ecosystem. At the gas station, two men stand near the energy drink fridge, talking in hushed tones. You catch fragments. Red hits smoother, try the gold one. Don't mix with those. It's not a drug deal. It's Tuesday. Elsewhere, a landscaper leans on his truck bed, explaining the difference between daytime capsules and nighttime capsules to a friend. Meanwhile, the friend nods with the seriousness of someone receiving ancient wisdom from a village elder. At a bus stop, two teenagers discuss the supplement aisle like analysts breaking down sports statistics. And on the other side of the parking lot, you overhear a man explaining to his girlfriend, "It's not addictive." Well, I mean, not technically, if you're careful, if you're smart. If you don't, well, anyway, here, take one. This is the economy. This is the marketplace. Not cash exchanged in alleyways, but knowledge and half experiences traded conversationally, woven into daily life like small-town gossip. The clerk at the gas station participates too, though silently. He restocks the bottles. He sees who buys what. He notices trends. He knows exactly when a new batch arrives, and exactly when a particular customer is having a rough week based on how quickly they swing through the door. There is one of everything in this ecosystem. The enthusiast. The person who evangelizes the supplement, like it cured their taxes, their insomnia, and their midlife crisis. The skeptic. The one who swears it's a scam but still buys a bottle just to see what the hype is about. The scholar. The guy who read 3 scientific papers, 2 Reddit threads, and now thinks he is the world's foremost authority on Tianeptine, despite not owning a single pair of matching socks. The casual dabbler. They try it once, maybe twice, maybe decide it's fine, and somehow still end up back at the gas station at 8 p.m, browsing the shelf like they are selecting wine. The loyalist. They have a favourite brand. They know which batches are stronger. They speak the jargon fluently, like a sommelier describing undertones of oak and citrus. The ghost. No one knows where they work or where they sleep. They appear at the gas station, buy 2 bottles and vanish into the twilight. Legends suggest they live inside a Waffle House, emerging only to refill their supply. And then, Of course there's you. You, who arrived here out of curiosity. You, who told yourself you were simply trying to survive a stressful week. You, who now stand in the twilight holding a bottle, while two men nearby debate which formulation has the cleaner onset. You blink. You are part of the conversation now whether or not you choose to participate, because every ecosystem has gravity, and the gas station pharmacology economy has its own rules, rhythms and social cues. You don't openly brag about how many capsules you take. You do warn strangers about the strong stuff. You share tips like, don't mix with those energy drinks unless you want to meet God. You talk in codes, in nicknames, in subtle nods. You never, under any circumstances, act like you're new to this. You check out with your bottle. The clerk hands it back with the silent understanding of a shopkeeper in a fantasy novel who has just sold the hero a magical artifact with unknown consequences. Outside, the evening crowd continues its dance. Idling cars, quiet conversations, tired faces illuminated by neon lights. You step into the warm Florida night. The bottle rattles quietly in your hand, and as you walk to your car, you realize something strange, something almost comforting. You're no longer just a customer. You're a participant in a modern folk economy, an underground pharmacological barter system hidden in plain sight, woven into the fabric of everyday life, sustained by curiosity, stress, and the unspoken bond of strangers who have all looked at the same bottle and thought, maybe this will help. As night approaches, you face the classic dilemma. Take more capsules or attempt to sleep like a responsible adult. It is a choice as old as human impulsivity itself. On one side of the scale, your bed, pillows, soft lighting, and the promise of natural rest. On the other side, a tiny red bottle rattling with chemical possibilities, and the seductive inner voice whispering, "One more won't hurt, probably." You sit on the edge of your bed, staring at the bottle on your nightstand the way someone might stare at a suspiciously friendly stray cat, intrigued, cautious, and maybe a little too optimistic for your own good. The room is quiet. The ceiling fan spins lazily, clicking every rotation like it's counting down to your decision. Outside, the Florida night hums with crickets, distant traffic, and the occasional sound of someone accelerating their motorcycle at 11 p.m. for absolutely no reason. Your brain, for its part, is holding a meeting. The responsible adult department steps forward first. It clears its throat and says, "Okay, listen. We've had enough for one day. Hydrate, brush your teeth, put the bottle away." But instantly the curiosity division interrupts. Or, hear me out, we could have a very relaxing, very mellow evening. A third voice joins the debate, the comfort advocate. It says things like, "Remember how cozy we felt earlier? Remember that warm, glowy, floating on a cloud sensation? We could feel that again, right now." Meanwhile, the biological systems team quietly raises a hand and says, tolerance is building, and also this is. They are immediately ignored. You pick up the bottle. It feels heavier at night. Not physically, but symbolically. Daytime doses feel like reckless experimentation. Nighttime doses feel like emotional decisions. And emotional decisions tend to come with backstories. You shake out one capsule into your palm, stare at it for several seconds, then pour it back into the bottle. See? Responsible. You nod to yourself, then immediately pour it out again. See? Curious. You place it back, take it out, hold it up to the bedside lamp like you're inspecting a rare gemstone that may or may not ruin your credit score. This is the nighttime dose debate in its purest form. A tug-of-war between chemical desire and the faint memory of good decisions. You stand up and walk toward the kitchen. Water might help. You fill a glass, sip it. Good. Hydration. Your body appreciates that. Then, without meaning to, you glance toward the nightstand from across the room, and the bottle sits there, Glowing in the lamplight like a mischievous fairy offering questionable wishes, you exhale sharply. Why does this tiny object have such influence? Why are humans like this? Why does a gas station supplement have the power to turn you into Hamlet, standing in your living room at 10:42 p.m., dramatically whispering to dose or not to dose? You sit back on the bed again. Connie, the capsule sits in your palm. Your thoughts begin drifting into all the philosophical territory nighttime brings. You have work tomorrow, but you also have stress right now. And yes, you can sleep without it. But will you? Or will your brain whisper anxieties into your ear until 3 a.m.? And doesn't a calm, relaxed night sound beautiful? But does waking up with your nervous system mostly intact? You sigh. Nighttime magnifies all thoughts, especially the ones involving temptation. The room feels softer now. Your muscles feel tired. Not the cozy kind of tired, the heavy. Life has been a bit much today kind of tired. You look down at the capsule, then surprisingly you shake your head and place it back in the bottle, not because you suddenly transformed into a pillar of discipline, but because even the curiosity division of your brain is yawning now. You turn off the lamp, crawl under the covers, and let the darkness settle around you. The crickets continue singing. The motorcycle somewhere in the distance finally stops revving. Your mind quiets, slowly, reluctantly, like a child resisting bedtime. And as your breathing deepens and sleep begins to take over, a faint realization floats through. The capsule will still be there tomorrow, waiting, whispering, negotiating. But tonight you chose sleep, a small victory in a day full of questionable decisions. You close your eyes, sinking into the mattress, letting the Florida night wrap around you like a warm, humid blanket and thinking one final, peaceful thought. Not tonight, little bottle. Not tonight. Eventually the body begins to protest. At first it's subtle, almost polite, like your body is sending you a friendly reminder email, a slight tightness in the jaw, a faint flutter in the stomach, a whisper of tension at the base of your skull. Nothing dramatic, nothing frightening, just the physical equivalent of your body tapping you on the shoulder and saying, "Hey, what exactly are we doing here?" You shift beneath the blankets, trying to find a comfortable position. But your muscles feel restless, like they're holding a quiet meeting of their own, one that you weren't invited to. Your heart doesn't race exactly, it just beats with an enthusiasm that wasn't mentioned on the supplement label. Not enough to panic you, just enough to make you notice it. Like a drummer warming up backstage. Your stomach adds its own commentary next. A slow, swirling discomfort that sits right under the ribcage, making you wonder whether you should have eaten something healthier today than a heat lamp breakfast sandwich and an afternoon handful of pretzels. The body protests in many languages. Sometimes it uses tension. Sometimes it uses digestive complaints. Tonight it uses the international Morse code of regret. You roll to your other side, hoping the discomfort will fade, but it follows you like a loyal, unwanted pet. You place a hand on your forehead and exhale slowly, trying to calm yourself. Breathing helps a little, only a little. Your mind, sensing an opportunity, jumps into the conversation. Is this normal? Probably. Should you Google it? Absolutely not. You're going to Google it. Yes. Yes, you are. You reach for your phone on the nightstand. The screen illuminates the entire room like a miniature lighthouse, warning you of incoming regret. You type something vague into the search bar, Tianeptine side effects, ZaZa Red night problems, or perhaps the classic timeless query, why does my body feel weird? The internet, helpful as always, responds with everything from mild concern to outright horror. One page calmly suggests hydration. Another page lists symptoms that absolutely no one should read at 11:30 p.m. You put the phone down immediately. Nope, no more of that. No more of... Your body continues its commentary. A slight tremble runs through your arms, not dramatic, just uncomfortable. Your legs feel jittery, as if they're preparing for a race no one signed up for. The warm, pleasant fog from earlier has evaporated completely, replaced by a thin film of unease. This is where the human brain performs another one of its peculiar tricks. It starts blaming everything except the obvious. Maybe it's dehydration. Maybe it's stress. Maybe it's the humidity. Maybe I'm just imagining it. The capsule, sitting quietly inside your system, says nothing. This is not panic, far from it, but it is discomfort. Your body is signaling that it is confused, that the day included more chemical negotiation than it signed up for. You sit up slowly, letting your feet rest on the warm floor. The air in the room feels thick, as if even the humidity is watching you and waiting for your next decision. Your body complains again, a hollow feeling in the chest, a moment of tightness behind the eyes. You stand, stretch, and walk slowly to the kitchen for a glass of water. Each step feels like a truce offering. Your body wanted something simple: rest, food, calm. Instead, it got gas station pharmacology, and the body, loyal but honest, lets you know when you've crossed the line between interesting experiment and please stop. You drink the water slowly. Your stomach grumbles once more, a soft, disgruntled sound. Your muscles relax a tiny amount. Your heart settles into a steadier rhythm. Your body is not angry exactly. It's more like a tired coworker sitting beside you saying, "Hey man, let's maybe not do that again." You return to bed and sink into the mattress, listening to the quiet sounds of the Florida night. Crickets, distant cars, someone's TV through the apartment wall. Your body is still complaining, but more quietly now, less frantic, more resigned, like it's filing the experience under lessons learned. And as your breathing slows and sleep finally starts to pull you in, you whisper a silent promise to yourself. Tomorrow, maybe not so much. Maybe less experimenting. Maybe a little more self-kindness. And your body, weary but hopeful, accepts the deal, at least for now. Late at night, you inevitably read stories from people who have gone much deeper down this rabbit hole. It always begins the same way. You can't sleep, your body feels unsettled, and your brain decides the best possible solution is to stare directly into the glowing rectangle of dread known as your phone. With the room dark and your nervous system whispering small warnings, you scroll and scroll and scroll. The stories come quickly. You don't even have to search for them. The algorithm knows. It recognizes late-night anxiety the way a dog recognizes the sound of a cheese wrapper, so it brings you exactly what you shouldn't be reading. First-hand accounts from people who took the same gas station supplement you experimented with today, but forgot to stop. The first story is mild enough. Someone writes, "Be careful. I used it for a few weeks and stopping wasn't fun." Okay, fair warning. But the next story turns the emotional thermostat up several notches. Day 3 without it. I haven't slept. Everything hurts. Why did I ever start? You feel this one in your spine. Then come the long posts, the late-night confessions typed by people in the middle of withdrawal, describing symptoms in a tone equal parts exhausted and poetic, like Victorian sailors journaling about storms at sea. You read one that begins, "It felt great until it didn't." Another opens with, "If you're reading this at night because your heart feels weird, stop now." Your heart suddenly becomes very noticeable, and because anxiety is an excellent research assistant, you keep reading. Some stories describe people taking more and more just to feel normal, chasing that early day calm like archaeologists chasing lost treasure. Others describe trying to quit, only to end up curled on the floor wondering when the universe installed a gravity upgrade. These stories are detailed. Too detailed. People describe sweating through their sheets, shaking hands, stomach staging full-scale revolts, minds looping into dark corners they didn't know existed. One person says they hallucinated a raccoon wearing a vest telling them to hydrate. You can't tell if this is meant to be literal or metaphorical, but you drink some water just in case. You scroll further and find the testimonials that are typed with the frantic energy of someone who wants to save strangers from their own decisions. I thought it couldn't happen to me. It can happen to anyone. Quit while it's still easy. If you think you're in control, that's when you're not. These posts have an eerie sameness to them, like different people describing the same haunted house. Your body reacts instinctively. Your breathing grows shallow, your shoulders stiffen, and your chest feels just a little tighter. Stress hormones begin circulating like office gossip. Your brain, helpful as always, chooses this moment to imagine the absolute worst-case scenario. You put the phone down, then you pick it back up. You reread the same story you just read 3 minutes ago as though a second pass will somehow make it less terrifying. It doesn't. Now your brain starts crafting little internal monologues. What if that happens to me? What if I already took too much? What if tomorrow is worse? What if I wake up feeling awful? Every scenario is equally dramatic, equally unlikely, equally stressful, and equally unhelpful. You scroll again. You find a calmer post, someone who quit after a few tries, said it wasn't too bad, and moved on with their life. A small wave of relief washes through you, but that relief lasts exactly 3 seconds before the next terrifying thread swoops onto your screen like a digital vulture. Another user writes, "My worst mistake was thinking I could handle it." Your eyes widen. You suddenly become hyper-aware of your pulse, your breathing, your temperature. Even the texture of your sheets feels suspicious, like it's trying to tell you a secret. You put the phone down again. This time, you actually intend to stop. But your brain says, maybe one more story, for research, and then you're back in the rabbit hole. It doesn't matter how many warnings you've read. Late-night internet sessions always follow the same emotional arc. Curiosity, concern, mild panic, vague promises to never do this again. More scrolling, existential dread, hydrating out of paranoia, finally forcing yourself to stop. Eventually, after reading enough horror stories to terrify an entire medical conference, you set your phone face down on the nightstand. The room is dark again, quiet. Your heart is still pounding slightly faster than usual, but your breathing begins to slow. Your body slowly settles, and in the silence, you realize something important. You're not those stories. You're not those people. You're you. Tired, curious, a little chemically adventurous, but capable of stepping back before the spiral becomes a sinkhole. You exhale, deep, slow, gentle, and finally your eyes begin to drift closed. The horror stories fade, the anxiety softens, and sleep, real, natural, overdue sleep finally begins to arrive. Morning returns faster than expected. It always does after a chemically complicated day, slipping in quietly without fanfare, like a landlord checking whether you've paid your existential rent. The sun pushes through your blinds with an assertiveness you did not consent to, casting stripes of bright Florida light across your face. Birds chirp outside your window with a cruel, reckless optimism of creatures who have never experienced anxiety. You open your eyes, slowly, carefully, as though you're afraid your thoughts might spill out if you move too quickly. Your mouth is dry, a level of dry that suggests you are storing small amounts of desert sand somewhere behind your molars. Your tongue feels like it slept under a weighted blanket made of cardboard. Your muscles ache in places you didn't even use yesterday, as though your body staged a nighttime protest march without telling you. You sit up. Gravity feels heavier this morning. 10, maybe 15% heavier. Enough that your bones gently creak in a way that would make a chiropractor whisper, "Ah, yes, Tuesday." You scan your body, performing the traditional morning diagnostic: head, foggy; stomach, unimpressed; mood, suspicious; motivation, on vacation; life choices, under review by several internal committees. Then you notice the bottle on the nightstand. It sits there innocently, the same way a cat sits beside a broken vase, pretending it has no idea what happened. It's just a bottle, plastic, small, silent. Yet it radiates the emotional weight of a complicated past relationship. You stare at it. It stares back. Neither of you speaks. Your brain, still half asleep, sends the first thought of the day: never again. A noble proclamation. Then the second thought arrives: unless. You shut that thought down immediately. Not today, brain. Not this early. You swing your legs out of bed and instantly become aware of the second major truth of the morning. Your energy levels are not merely low, they have fallen through the floor, descended into the basement, and are now curled up under an old couch cushion, refusing to come out. Every movement feels like you are walking underwater. Your limbs are heavy, your eyelids droopy, and your entire nervous system seems to be whispering, absolutely not. You shuffle to the bathroom. The mirror greets you with the cold honesty of fluorescent lighting. Your hair looks like it attempted to escape your body during the night and got caught halfway. Your eyes have that specific glaze that says, I stayed up scrolling through cautionary Reddit posts like a Victorian widow reading tragic letters by candlelight. You splash water on your face. It helps. A little, not enough. The morning routine continues, each step feeling strangely exaggerated. Brush teeth. Stare at wall. Find shirt. Forget why you opened the closet. Remember to hydrate. Stare at the bottle again. Hydrate extra. Your stomach grumbles, not with hunger, but with administrative displeasure, like it's filing a formal complaint with the Department of Internal Affairs. Coffee feels absolutely essential, but also possibly dangerous. Caffeine plus your current neurochemical aftershocks might launch your consciousness into low orbit, so you decide to start slowly. Warm water, maybe tea, something gentle, something innocent, something without a warning label. You sit on the edge of your bed again, holding the mug, letting the steam rise over your face like a small forgiveness ceremony. This is the part of the morning where reflection creeps in. You think about yesterday. You think about the ease with which the day slid from curiosity into habit. You think about the long scroll of internet horror stories. You think about how peaceful that first dose felt. You think about how uncomfortable the night became. And somewhere in that fog of reflection, one thought stands above the rest. You don't want another day like that. Not today. Not right now. You take another slow sip of tea, letting your breath catch up with your thoughts. Outside, sunlight fills the street. Somewhere down the road, the gas station glows in the distance, preparing for the morning rush of customers buying coffee, lottery tickets, energy drinks, and little red bottles. You will pass it on your commute. You know you will, but this time, at least this morning, you have the strength to drive past without stopping. Because today, your body is the one calling the shots, and your body, with all its soreness, fog, and emotional exhaustion, is saying calmly, firmly, with the authority of someone who has dealt with enough, let's not do that again. Stepping back, the existence of substances like ZaZa Red tells a larger story about modern society, because these little red capsules didn't just appear out of nowhere like some mysterious alchemical relic misplaced by a wandering wizard. No, they exist because we do. They exist because the modern world is exhausting, confusing, overstimulating, and always asking for more from people who already feel like they're running on the emotional equivalent of a low battery warning. Gas station drugs are a symptom, not an accident. Start with the basics. The average adult is tired. Not just, I didn't sleep enough tired, but spiritually tired. tired in the bones, tired in the soul, tired in the "I can't believe it's only Wednesday" way. Life is full of work emails, bills, commutes, obligations, and the constant bombardment of information from glowing screens demanding your attention like loud, needy children. And because we're all stretched so thin, people start looking for shortcuts. Tiny ones, convenient ones sold at gas stations next to beef jerky and novelty sunglasses. It's easy to see how the idea took off. A capsule that claims to relax you, energize you, focus you, lift your mood, all without needing a prescription, a doctor visit, or even a full 8 hours of sleep. Of course, people buy it. It's the fast food version of emotional regulation, quick, accessible, and built specifically for people whose nervous systems are constantly whispering, "We are doing our best, but this is not sustainable." There's something almost poetic about it. Humans, overwhelmed by modern life, gravitate toward convenient store chemistry as a way to cope with demands that biology never evolved to handle. We weren't designed for constant alertness, 24/7 connectivity, or the psychological challenge of receiving 14 texts while also attending a Zoom meeting, answering emails, and paying 3 online bills simultaneously. So people reach for tools: coffee, energy drinks, melatonin, nicotine, CBD gummies shaped like cartoon animals, and in some places Tianeptine capsules packaged to look harmless enough to slip into a pocket between a car key and a lip balm. The market exists because the need exists, and the need exists because society has quietly normalized exhaustion as a lifestyle. Then there's the other half of the story, the regulatory grey zone. Gas station drugs exist because laws haven't kept pace with chemistry, because scientific nuance doesn't always translate into policy, because labelling something a supplement creates a loophole large enough to drive a delivery truck full of mood-altering compounds straight through it. In that sense, ZaZa Red represents a perfect storm, a compound with psychoactive effects, a loophole big enough to function as a business model, a culture desperate for relief, a supply chain that can deliver relief in under 10 minutes, a customer base living in a state of chronic stress and underslept resignation. But zoom out even further and the story becomes even broader, almost anthropological. Humans have always sought tools to alter consciousness. Ancient cultures had teas, herbs, fermented drinks, roots, mushrooms, smoke blends. Medieval apothecaries sold powders, poultices, tinctures, elixirs, and mysterious potions with ingredients that would give a modern pharmacist a nervous breakdown. People across history have turned to substances to ease pain, calm nerves, stay awake, work longer, sleep better, dream differently, escape reality, or survive it. Gas station drugs are simply the 21st century version of an ancient pattern. Instead of buying herbs from a travelling monk, you buy capsules from a fluorescent-lit shelf between the lighter fluid and the Slim Jims. Instead of consulting a healer, you consult Reddit. Instead of a village elder warning you about the forest spirits, an internet stranger warns you about the withdrawal. But the impulse, the yearning for something to take the edge off existence, is timeless. Standing in that gas station aisle, bottle in hand, you're not just a modern adult making a questionable purchase. You're part of a long, unbroken chain of humans reaching for things that promise a little relief, a little ease, a little escape. And whether it comes from a medieval potion bottle or a plastic capsule bought with a honey bun and a fountain drink, the underlying emotion is the same. I'm trying my best. I just need a moment of peace. And that's why these products exist. Not because people are weak, not because society is broken, but because being human, in any century, is hard. And sometimes, standing under harsh gas station lights at the end of a long day, a tiny red bottle can look like an answer, even if it's only pretending to be one. Humans have always experimented with substances that change how we feel. It's one of our oldest hobbies, older than writing, older than agriculture, older than most of the structures we call civilization. Before humans built cities, we were already out in the wild eating berries to see if they made us feel good, feel bad, or feel like we were speaking directly to the moon. Curiosity may not have killed the cat, but it has definitely made humans try some astonishingly questionable things over the centuries. And ZaZa Red, sitting quietly on the gas station shelf, is simply the latest chapter in that ancient tradition. Think about it. Our species has a long, chaotic history of self-experimentation. Ancient Greeks drank herbal brews to speak to the gods. Medieval monks crafted tinctures intended to balance the humours, which honestly sounds like a medieval way of saying vibes were off. Sailors chewed strange bark to treat scurvy. Victorian-era doctors prescribed cocaine for, everything. Women smoked cigarettes for relaxation, while ads proudly announced they were recommended by physicians. People once thought radium water was a health drink. Humans do not have a great track record of cautious decision-making, but what we do have is creativity and the deep need to feel different, even for a moment. ZaZa Red fits perfectly into that lineage. The bottle may be plastic instead of clay, and the ingredients may be produced in a modern lab rather than crushed with a stone mortar, but the instinct beneath it is the same. You, sitting in your car and contemplating a capsule that definitely wasn't mentioned in your high school health textbook, are participating in an ancient ritual, the quest to tweak our inner world. Why? Because the inner world is messy. We get stressed, we get tired, we get lonely, overwhelmed, anxious, bored. We seek clarity, we seek calm, we seek energy, we seek escape. Humans aren't logical creatures, we're emotional ones. We often make decisions not based on risk assessment, but on the hope that maybe, just maybe, something will help us feel a little less burdened by the weight of modern existence. Self-experimentation is woven into our cultural DNA. You see it everywhere. People microdose psilocybin for creativity. People use caffeine like it's a survival mechanism. People chew vitamins that look like gummy bears. People buy teas promising enlightenment, digestive peace, and toxins removed from your aura. People blend spinach into smoothies and pretend to enjoy it. Even wellness culture is full of self-experimentation, just with better branding. Half of modern health trends could be described as humans trying things on themselves to see what happens. And behind all of it is the simple truth. We're trying to figure out how to be okay. Which is why gas station products, mysterious, unregulated, slightly alarming, hold such appeal. They promise change without commitment. They offer relief without paperwork. They provide the illusion of control when life feels uncontrollable. You don't have to schedule an appointment. You don't have to answer questions. You don't have to explain what's wrong. You just buy the bottle, take the capsule, and hope the universe nods approvingly. But the real fascination lies not just in the capsule, but in the human behind it. You, sitting there with your choices, your stress, your desire for calm. You're not reckless. You're not foolish. You're human. A creature who's been self-experimenting since long before written language existed. Adjusting, tasting, testing, hoping, learning. You're part of a long historical chain of people saying, I wonder what this will do. And sometimes that curiosity leads to breakthroughs, medicines, discoveries, spiritual insights, personal growth. Other times it leads to sitting in a gas station parking lot eating a breakfast sandwich that tastes like regret and researching opioid receptors at midnight. Both are perfectly human outcomes. As you stretch your legs, glance at the bottle, and consider the winding journey that led you here, you realize that your experiment was never really about the capsule itself. It was about the human impulse driving the experiment, the hope that you can improve your experience of being alive, even for a moment. And that instinct, flawed and beautiful as it is, remains one of our most defining traits. from berries in the forest to potions in medieval apothecaries to pharmaceutical bottles in fluorescent-lit convenience stores. The story has always been the same. Humans feel things deeply, and humans will always try something to feel differently. And finally, the sun rises again over the Florida gas station parking lot. The fluorescent lights flicker off. The coffee machine sputters awake, and somewhere a new customer walks in, glances at the supplement rack and wonders what that little red bottle does. It's a new day, but in Florida, dawn doesn't gently arrive. It slams into the landscape like a spotlight being switched on in a dark theatre. Overnight humidity still clings to the pavement, making the air feel thick enough to spread on toast. The palm trees rustle softly in the coastal breeze, and the sky shifts from purplish dawn to blazing orange like someone fast-forwarded nature. The gas station, that strange oasis of caffeine, lottery tickets, and impulsive decisions, stretches awake too. Delivery trucks unload cases of energy drinks that glow like radioactive fruit. A worker drags a mop bucket across the floor with the resigned determination of someone who has truly seen things. And the slushy machine, loyal and eternal, begins its morning grind. You sit in your car for a moment, watching it all. The same parking lot, the same building, the same neon signs promising snacks, fuel, and possibly enlightenment. But something about the sunrise makes everything look a little more symbolic, as if this place, in all its ridiculous mundane glory, represents the cycle of human decision-making itself. Every day someone walks in for the first time. Every day someone walks in for the 10th time. Every day someone stands in front of that supplement rack with the same expression you once wore. Half curiosity, half stress, half, well, why not? You watch a man step inside wearing flip-flops and sunglasses, even though the sun has barely cleared the horizon. He beelines straight to the coffee machine, yawning with the full-body misery of someone who woke up before his soul did. Behind him, a young woman in scrubs picks up a protein bar and stares at the energy drinks like they might hold the secret to surviving another shift. And then there's the guy who wanders toward the supplement shelf. You see him. The hesitation, the tilt of the head. The casual, just browsing posture. You know that posture. Everyone who has ever stood in front of that rack knows it. He reads the labels. He picks up a bottle, puts it back, grabs another, checks the price, checks the ingredients like he's pretending he understands what they mean. It's like watching a younger version of yourself move through space-time. You sip your drink, feeling a strange mix of empathy, amusement, and, unexpectedly, clarity. Not judgment, not superiority, just understanding. Because you've now lived the full cycle. Curiosity, experimentation, comfort, escalation, unease, regret, reflection, and now sunrise. As the sky brightens, the world shifts into a softer focus. Your body, still recovering from yesterday's chemistry experiment, feels worn but wiser. There's a tenderness inside your chest, the emotional version of a bruise that reminds you where you hit the wall. But the sunrise feels like permission. Permission to start again. Permission to do today differently. Permission to let the gas station be a place for fuel and snacks, not nervous system negotiations. You take a deep breath of warm, humid Florida morning air, the kind that smells faintly of asphalt, ocean salt, and convenience store breakfast burritos. For the first time in 24 hours, your body doesn't feel like it's holding an argument with itself. Your thoughts settle. Your heartbeat steadies. You think, I don't need that bottle today. And for the first time, the thought feels real, not forced, not aspirational, just true. Inside the store, the clerk rearranges the supplement rack. The bottles clink softly, waiting for another curious soul. Business will continue. The cycle will go on. Someone else will eventually walk the same path you walked, but not you. Not today. You turn the key in the ignition. The engine rumbles awake. The sun climbs higher, washing the sky in pastel layers of peach and gold. Another day in Florida begins, humid, chaotic, unpredictable, and strangely beautiful. And as you pull out of the parking lot, leaving the gas station behind, you carry something rare and valuable. Not fear, not shame, not confusion, perspective. Because sometimes it takes a little chaos, a little discomfort, and one very long night to realize something simple and powerful. There are better ways to greet the sunrise than with a bottle of gas station heroin in your pocket. You drive on, the sky brightens, and for the first time in a while, you feel free. At some point you begin to wonder how this tiny bottle even reached your hands in the first place. After all, ZaZa Red did not grow naturally on the majestic trees of Florida. Somewhere out there exists a strange modern supply chain, where chemicals originally synthesized in laboratories decades ago are packaged into glossy capsules, shipped across oceans, and eventually stacked neatly beside Slim Jims and windshield washer fluid. It's a journey that starts in industrial factories and ends in the humming, refrigeration glow of a convenience store cooler, where a tired man in cargo shorts debates whether to buy a sports drink or something that might accidentally alter the trajectory of his entire week. Civilization is a marvel. Seriously, imagine trying to explain this to someone from the 1800s. Yes, good sir, this is a tonic made from chemicals discovered halfway across the world, manufactured in a facility you will never see, shipped thousands of miles through a system so complex it requires satellites and barcodes, and you can buy it next to pork-flavoured snack sticks for $14.99. Their monocle would shatter. But that's the bizarre magic of modern logistics. The ability to bring almost anything legal, semi-legal, dubiously legal, or nobody has technically outlawed this yet legal, directly into your neighbourhood gas station with the ease of ordering a pizza. The supply chain begins, most likely in a giant pharmaceutical factory, the kind of place full of stainless steel pipes, industrial mixers, and scientists wearing protective eyewear, who absolutely did not expect their research to end up fueling 3 a.m. Reddit debates and existential Florida parking lot philosophizing. Tianeptine, the compound that fuels ZaZa Red, started as a legitimate antidepressant studied by professionals in lab coats. Cut to the present. The compound has travelled continents. It's been shipped through warehouses, packed into crates, and loaded onto transport trucks driven by people listening to true crime podcasts at 65 miles per hour. At some point, someone somewhere in the supply chain decided to slap the words dietary supplement on the bottle, because that magical phrase is the golden ticket of American commerce. It allows all sorts of items to slip unnoticed into the retail ecosystem like raccoons sneaking into a campground. Once it arrives in the United States, the product begins its perilous journey through distributors, middlemen who exist in every industry, but become especially mysterious when dealing with products that hover in regulatory grey zones. Picture men in polos driving forklifts, stacking boxes marked with vague labels like mood enhancers or herbal wellness formula, and thinking absolutely nothing of it. Then come the wholesalers who supply gas stations. These are the unsung heroes of the American convenience store landscape. The people responsible for ensuring that every 7-Eleven, Speedway and corner gas station is stocked with the exact combination of strange beverages, questionable supplements, novelty lighters, off-brand headphones, and seasonal gummy candy you've come to expect. Their catalogues must be incredible. Finally, the product arrives at the gas station, the end of the global supply chain, the final frontier of capitalism, the great melting pot where customers of all ages gather to purchase everything from diesel fuel to microwavable burritos older than the interns running the store's social media account. There the bottle sits, under fluorescent lights, in the company of impulse snacks, waiting. Maybe for a trucker who needs to stay awake for a long haul. Maybe for a stressed-out office worker desperate for a mood shift. Maybe for a teenager who simply likes collecting brightly coloured things. Maybe for you after a long day, a short night, and a morning filled with humidity, confusion, and questionable life decisions. The sheer number of decisions, people, machines, and accidents required for this bottle to reach your hand is astonishing. Someone manufactured the chemical. Someone encapsulated it. Someone boxed it. Someone shipped it overseas. Someone transported it across states. Someone unpacked it. Someone stocked it on a shelf. Someone set the price. Someone installed the fluorescent lighting above it. Thousands of small coincidences, thousands of moving parts, thousands of systems operating in harmony, all so that you could stand in a gas station at 8:37 a.m. and say, wonder what this does. Civilization truly is a marvel. Not always a wise one, not always a careful one, but undeniably impressive in its ability to deliver absolutely anything, anywhere, even substances that probably should come with a pamphlet titled "Are You Sure?" And so, next time you hold a little red bottle in your hand, remember, you're not just interacting with a supplement. You're holding the final product of a global labyrinth of chaos, ambition, capitalism, questionable regulation, exhausted workers, industrial machinery, bored clerks, and human curiosity, all converging improbably in the palm of your hand. And that, for better or worse, is the miracle of the gas station supply chain. By now, your body has entered what scientists might politely call a negotiation phase. Your brain, liver, and nervous system are quietly discussing the situation like a stressed office meeting. Your brain says, "This is interesting. Let's keep doing that." Your liver replies, "Please don't." Meanwhile, your stomach is attempting to process the combined breakfast of gas station coffee, fluorescent energy drinks, and a supplement that technically belongs in a medical journal rather than a convenience store display rack. The result is a strange internal conference where no department agrees on the plan, yet the meeting keeps continuing anyway. You don't notice this conference right away. It starts subtly, like a workplace Zoom call, where everyone's microphones are muted, but you can feel the tension through the screen. Your body tries to behave normally, maintaining the illusion of control, but beneath the surface, every system is quietly filing complaints. Your digestive system is the first to speak up. It doesn't shout, it just sighs. A long, weary sigh, the kind an exhausted parent makes when finding out their child has microwaved aluminum foil again. Your stomach begins to grumble in Morse code, sending signals like, What is this? Why would you do this? You know I'm sensitive." Meanwhile, your liver is furiously flipping through its internal handbook, the same one it uses when confronted with situations like excessive birthday tequila, road trip fast food, and I forgot to hydrate for 36 hours. Except this time, the handbook has a different tone. Something like, "This is above my pay grade." Your liver begins reallocating resources, preparing enzymes, running damage control protocols, and typing metaphorical resignation letters. It sends a formal note to the brain that simply reads, "If you continue this behavior, we will be making structural changes to our partnership." Your brain does not read the note. Your brain is busy enjoying the lingering warmth from earlier, replaying the dopamine-laced memory of feeling calm, focused, or pleasantly detached. It leans back in its imaginary swivel chair and says, "Relax everyone, we're fine, this is fine, everything's fine." The nervous system raises a hand. It does not think everything is fine. Your nerves start firing in unusual rhythms, not alarmed, just confused, like someone trying to dance to a song with an unpredictable beat. A faint jitter here, a quiet tremble there. Your legs feel restless, your arms feel slightly too heavy. Your temperature shifts half a degree in an indeterminate direction. This is when your body begins speaking in sensations instead of words. A flutter behind the eyes, a heaviness in the lungs, a tightness across the shoulders. A vague something is off feeling that's impossible to describe but easy to recognize. Your bloodstream chimes in, flowing a little faster than usual. Your heart, loyal but annoyed, keeps pumping steadily, but with the tone of someone muttering, "I really didn't sign up for this shift." Your muscles tense, not in fear but in anticipation, waiting to see what comes next. Your breathing tries to compensate, deepening involuntarily as though trying to create more space inside your chest for negotiations to continue. Inside your skull, the committee reconvenes. Brain, let's do that again. Liver, we're shutting this down. Stomach, I need a quiet moment. Nervous system, we're receiving mixed messages. Heart, who authorized this? Lungs, bro, hydrate. It is the most dysfunctional workplace meeting since the invention of PowerPoint. You, meanwhile, sit on your couch completely unaware of the chaos inside your own torso. You're just trying to figure out why your mood feels unpredictable, why your legs won't quite relax, and why the room seems slightly overlit even though the lamps haven't changed brightness. Your body is trying its best. It really is. It's running triage, adjusting chemicals, balancing neurotransmitters, negotiating with receptors, keeping you alive while simultaneously sending feedback forms to your consciousness that say things like, "Please reconsider future choices." At some point, a curious wave of clarity washes over you, not calm, not panic, just awareness. This internal negotiation has a cost. Every shortcut does, and your body, loyal, exhausted, and surprisingly patient, is quietly asking you to acknowledge the truth. It can adapt, it can compensate, it can negotiate, but it cannot do this forever, not without consequences. And in that moment, as your systems settle into a fragile truce, you realize something important. Your body isn't your enemy, it's your teammate. A tired, overworked teammate who deserves better planning, better leadership, and maybe, just maybe, fewer experiments purchased next to motor oil and lottery tickets. The meeting adjourns, for now. So now the day is finally winding down. You've made it through a full 24 hours in the strange little universe of gas station pharmacology. You woke up in the Florida heat, navigated the fluorescent aisles of convenience store supplements, debated capsule dosages in a parking lot that smelled faintly of gasoline and hot dogs, and attempted to function like a responsible adult while your brain quietly drifted somewhere between calm relaxation and mild existential confusion. Not exactly the wellness routine advertised on the bottle. You've survived the morning pilgrimage to the gas station, the awkward workday where your co-workers wondered why you were staring thoughtfully at a stapler for 10 minutes, the late-night convenience store philosophy club, and the endless internal negotiations between your brain and the rest of your body. And now the sun has set again over Florida. The gas station lights hum softly in the distance. The parking lot is quiet for once, and your body, after a full day of strange chemical adventures and questionable life choices, is finally ready to rest. Because the truth is, behind every strange story like this is something very human. People have always searched for ways to feel a little calmer, a little happier, a little less stressed by the chaos of everyday life. Sometimes that search leads to good habits. Sometimes it leads to herbal tea, exercise, and long walks. And sometimes it leads to a tiny red bottle sitting next to beef jerky in a gas station. History is full of these odd little chapters, humans experimenting, adapting, trying things that probably seemed like a good idea at the time. And through it all, people keep going. They wake up the next morning, try again, make slightly better decisions, and keep stumbling forward through life's strange little adventures. So tonight, as you settle into your bed, with real pillows, clean sheets, running water, and absolutely zero need to buy mysterious capsules from a convenience store shelf. Maybe take a quiet moment to appreciate how comfortable the modern world can be. No fluorescent gas station aisles, no debating supplement dosages in a parking lot. Just a quiet room, a soft bed, and the gentle comfort of knowing you made it through another day. Because life is strange, people are endlessly curious, and sometimes the weirdest stories remind us just how resilient and occasionally ridiculous we all are. Now the Florida night grows quiet. The gas station lights flicker in the distance. The shelves are full again. And somewhere, another strange story is waiting for tomorrow. But for now, you can rest. Close your eyes, let the day drift away, and sleep.